Sup? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Maro, your storyteller for today, and with me we have some more RPG horror stories. I have a little bit of a story to tell. When I was first learning D&D, I got a really cool spell as a warlock called Summon Shadow Spawn or Shadow Fiend or something like that. Well, I didn't realize that I had to have a component in order to summon it. Tears inside of a gem for about 300 gold. I was taught that you're supposed to sacrifice it every single time you wanted to summon this Shadow Fiend. So silly me, after like third summoning in general, decided, you know what, I'm spending a lot of gold to summon this one guy, I'm probably gonna rotate the spell out. After I left that campaign in about like December of last year, October last year, somewhere about the end of last year, then I only realized that I didn't have to sacrifice it. I just need to have it in my inventory because it doesn't consume the item. Not every spell in D&D 5e consumes the item whenever you use it. I wasn't told better, I wasn't told any different, I was told that all spells that require material component always consume the spell. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, RPG horror stories. Let's get some RPG horror stories for today.
Baby's first Cyberpunk campaign.
Hi Mara, I've been following your channel for a while and I love your videos, especially the delivery and the aesthetics. I got a story of my own to share, and although it's Cyberpunk and not D&D, I'd be really happy if you checked it out. You know, I'm actually super down to read about other games out there like Cyberpunk Red, or I think this a different Cyberpunk, one of those. Either way, I'm super down to read it. A few years ago, my university classmate, dorm neighbor and friend, Bro, male early 20s, invited me, Ray, female early 20s, to his dorm flat for a game night with his 4 flatmates. During a game of Munchkin, I lamented never having actually played a real TTRPG, and apparently everybody but one person hadn't either. So the only non-noob offered to run a game of Cyberpunk for us. I've always been a high fantasy kind of gal, but I was under the impression that if someone offers to GM for your all newbie group, you shut up and take them before they change their mind. I was really pumped for the game, mostly for the following reasons. The GM was, and hopefully still is, a total badass and a pleasure to be around. He was from Uzbekistan and he spoke 3 languages, Uzbek, Russian, English, fluently. And since he was from a small town, he had to establish a nerd club himself and DM his own games since age 14. He was 18 when we met at the dorm. On top of it, he studied coding and played guitar. Dude was mad talented and I hope he's doing well. The crew. Being female, I've always been a bit uneasy when meeting new all-male nerd groups because gaming nerd culture in Russia can get quite toxic, but these guys were extremely nice and welcoming. They treated me with respect and I genuinely didn't have to worry about being seen as less than. We were just 6 nerds vibing in a dorm room with tea and snacks. Are you Russian by any chance? If you are, привет, здрасте, спасибо за историю. God, I sound so I can hear the American accent in my voice. Unfortunately, this is where the list of nice things ends because it's about to go downhill fast. Bro and I were getting a master's degree and only had evening classes up until 9 p.m. Whereas the boys were undergrad fresh out of high school and they had their classes anywhere from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. which instantly took our Monday through Friday as our game day options. We sometimes had classes on Saturday as well, and Sundays were usually reserved for homework, of which we had plenty. Bro was also working and I was job hunting, so safe to say scheduling was no easy feat with this group. Managed to agree on a day, but didn't have time to read up on a subject, which promptly came back to bite us. When the day finally came, I arrived to the flat around 9 p.m. with snacks and anticipation, only to see Bro missing. I asked the GM where he is, and he said that he's locked in a room and very busy working on a deadline. He'd always had a bit of a grind set to him, so I thought that he's just working on something quick for a side job and will join us in no time. GM was fine running for -1 players, so I thought it's no problemo. We'll finally get to character creation, and it dawns on us that on top of us being total TTRPG noobs, nobody but the GM and another freshman gamer boy had actually played Cyberpunk. We basically don't even know the setting. GM looks surprised but quickly regains his cheery and chill vibe and offers us to randomly generate the characters with an online tool rather than going through the character creation process with 4 people who have no idea what they're doing. I don't recall the exact lineup, but I remember playing a rocker boy. And I also remember that none of us managed to roll up a netrunner. Yeah, with a party that showed up to play Cyberpunk without a netrunner. Poor GM just gave us a no netrunner achievement and we carried on. But his face clearly showed that he wasn't prepared for this kind of crap this early in the game. By the way, I looked it up. Netrunner is basically the hacker, the whiz kid when it comes to technology, which I think is kind of a big deal. It's almost like having a rogue who's able to deal with traps, pick locks, and I guess be stealthy, but more digitally stealthy rather than physically stealthy. Still, it feels like it's a rather important thing to have for a cyberpunk-heavy universe. GM starts to narrate, and I can see that me and the two newbie freshmen share the huh look in our faces. We start taking notes, and thanks to GM and Gamerboy's generous help, we're actually going somewhere with the game. The time is slowly creeping closer to 12 AM, and I'm starting to feel sleepy, but I'm trying my best to stay awake when the game comes to a screeching halt. Stupid little Ray didn't know what she considered just being self-conscious and shy would be diagnosed as a severe case of anxiety 2 years later and would have to be treated with medicine. And that's why stupid little Ray decided that playing a charisma-based RP heavy face of the party type of character in a setting she knew nothing about might actually work. So during a key moment where the rocker boy was supposed to sway the crowd in favor of the party and RP with important NPCs, I had a full-blown panic attack at the table. And because Bro was still absent, the boys had to console me. This was making my second time meeting most of them, so we're essentially almost strangers. Gamerboy took the lead instead and managed to use his in-game knowledge to get us out of a sticky situation. And I was so overwhelmed by the adrenaline rush and my own unstable schedule that I passed out of the table. I am so sorry. I actually had a situation where a player almost had a bit of a, not I guess a panic attack, but almost like a brain freeze or like a brain fart moment, and they just didn't know what to really do. It's kind of like deer in the headlights moment, and I felt really bad. So yeah, when you're first starting off and trying to be charismatic and kind of put on the spot, it can be easy. It definitely something that comes in easier as you play it more and more, but having somebody be like new player and not put on the spot, if they're not ready to RP or not ready for the social situation, it could be super anxiety inducing. I remember my first day in a VR chat roleplay and somebody came up and asked me something. I don't remember what it was, and I immediately was like, deer in the headlights moment. I just didn't know what to say. I was stumped. I get completely how you feel. It can be super rough for a new person. You gotta like really ease them in, you know? Can't just be like, oh, what do you think? And just like put them on a spot. Spotlight in these sort of situations can be really stressful, super stressful. I woke up an hour later. One of the guys said they decided not to wake me up because I looked like I needed a nap. The noise that woke me up was made by Bro, who was finally done with his work and ready to play. He actually came with a pre-generated character, which was, yeah, you guessed it, not a netrunner. He insisted on playing with what he brought, so on we went. But soon we decided to take a break because GM was getting a bit hoarse. I went to speak with Bro and casually asked him which one of his side jobs got him staying up until 2 AM, to which he stared at me in horror and said it was homework. Homework I didn't know about. However, since we're in the same grade, any deadline that he has, I also have. And the deadline, of course, was 10 AM on that day, and I had less than 8 hours. Oh, fuck. I'm getting PTSD from university right now. I don't have a master's degree or anything, so obviously my ride was a lot easier than yours, but oh my god, I had some professors that were brutal. I quickly said my goodbyes, ran off, and stayed up until 7 AM doing the homework in question. Then, as I went to submit it, I noticed there wasn't a submission folder with my name. This particular subject was taken off my curriculum because I've taken a similar one a few years prior, which I knew, but completely forgot about. At this point, I just decided to go to sleep. Well, I mean, for a first-time experience with that sort of thing, yeah, that's not the greatest, and have to deal with homework and all that stress and stuff. But you know what? At least you had a proper try into it. You went in headstrong, didn't know what to expect, you did your best. It was a little bit messy, but you know what? Next time around, probably gonna be a lot easier, and you probably have a lot more experience now with this sort of things. I hope you're still playing Cyberpunk or tried other TTRPGs and stuff, because if you have any more stories, I would love to read them. Thanks so much for your story submission. I really appreciate it. Now, let's get to the next story submission, of which I have many, very many story submissions that I need to get through.
Feeling out of place and don't know what to do about it.
I've been watching your content for a while, and I'm a big fan. Congrats on the stream debut, by the way. Oh my god, this is from forever ago. I am so sorry. This isn't really a horror story, though the campaign is still young. It's more of me asking the internet for advice. Bold, I know. I'm playing in a homebrew world with 5e elements with good friends I've known for a couple of years now. And the cast is as follows, using class names instead of players' PC names. Me, Barbarian Fighter Multiclass. Monk, Ranger? I don't know, they changed the class a lot. Sorcerer, Sorcerer Paladin Multiclass. Druid Sorcerer, interesting combo, but I ain't their dad. DM, not super relevant to this story. The first thing I feel that needs to say is that this is a heroic campaign. Something that Ranger already tried to test by trying to play a lawful evil character without telling anyone. I honestly thought it could have worked as a dynamic if they had just looped us in, but I don't want to get sidetracked. Maybe I'll write that story another time. My Barbarian is a lawful neutral with heroic tendencies. He loves a good fight more than anything, but he's honorable about them, giving the enemy a chance to surrender, but making the kill clean if they don't. A real warrior through and through. Monk doesn't participate as much in roleplay, but their character is lawful good. The chill kind of lawful good, not the lawful stupid. The problem lies in the group dynamic. Ranger is still a murder hobo. Druid and Sorcerer is kind of a murder hobo, but not as much. And Sorcerer is definitely getting there. In a recent session where we were missing Monk and Ranger for valid reasons that weren't flaking, Sorcerer struck a deal with an adult black dragon, the most violent subspecies of chromatic dragon, for those who don't know, to release it into a populated area in exchange for his assistance against the Ark's boss. My Barbarian protested, saying the battle was with an evil emperor, not the hundreds of thousands of innocent people subject to his rule. He almost got shut down, but managed to convince Sorcerer to really consider what that deal entails. If there's a one thing I pride myself in, it's my ability to read the room. 3 out of 5 people want to go against the grain and play morally questionable characters in a heroic campaign. And under the right circumstances, I feel like that could be a good thing. This doesn't feel like the right circumstance. I'm not about to just up and turn my character evil for the sake of fitting into the group dynamic better, and I feel like the story is too far in to roll up a new character. I'm also not able to tell anyone how they should play their character, but when a barbarian acts more like a paladin than the actual paladin, I can't help but ask myself, am I playing the wrong character? Or am I in the wrong party? What do you think? You know, although you said the DM is probably not important in the story, I feel like right now, this very moment, this question should be asked not just to me, I mean, if you want to, but specifically to the DM. I feel like you and the DM could probably have a sit down and really talk it out and see if maybe the barbarian is really a fit for the party, how the DM feels about this whole thing. I get that players are supposed to play this heroic campaign, but what is it entailing to play a heroic campaign? What did the players agree to? Can it be heroically good? Can it be heroically evil? Is there such thing as being heroically evil? How does the DM feel about this situation? What sort of story DM wants to tell as well? DM isn't just the arbiter of the world, right? They're also a player at the table trying to tell this interactive story. Player agency and DM's agency should also matter at the same time, so I guess it really depends on what the DM thinks as well. There's a little bit more to this story, so before I give my full thoughts, I'm gonna go ahead and read the second section because it might be kind of important, so let's get to reading. The first thing I feel the need to elaborate on is a secondary character rule. This will be slightly important later. The DM allows for a maximum of 2 characters per player with a strict rule that while we are free to play both in roleplay scenes, we can only have one at a time in combat, which I agreed to as it felt more than reasonable. It would be a little busted if I could have both my characters in combat at the same time. And this also worked out for my rogue, who's a royal spy and excels in infiltration and espionage roleplay. God, I love Thief. So this main function is gathering information for the party off screen. Fast forward to this session in question, and immediately we are railroaded into combat via the good old wish spell, and our characters are teleported into an arena. All of our characters. Oh, that could cause some problems. DM? I noticed both my rogue and barbarian are in here. I thought the rule was we couldn't have both characters in combat at the same time. DM in simultaneously dismissive and sadistic voice. Oh, you gonna need it. Right before the initiative roll, the villain my rogue was dead set on arresting, as per his backstory, reveals herself as some super powerful devil in what felt like a revelation as rushed as a big reveal about the BBG in Act 2 of Baldur's Gate 3. If you know, you know. And name drops my rogue, whose name and race were a secret for both professional reasons and for his own sake, as his house had been slandered and destroyed, forced him to live 40 years in hiding. So I'm forced to unmask my drow rogue much earlier than I planned, in the most anticlimactic way. Already this session felt extremely unsatisfying. Well, there goes my character arc, I said with a dry chuckle, and they actually thought I was joking. Nah, I had already been struggling with the feeling of being out of place because the DM had gone out of his way to make 90% of the campaign so far revolve around Sorcerer, Paladin, and Ranger, to the point where even the session that took place in the ruins of my barbarian's home village didn't go very long without the spotlight going back to Ranger. Essentially, I kind of felt like my barbarian is part of the party, just not part of the plot. So maybe I'm being overly sensitive, but having my rogue story rush like that with 5 minutes into this last session felt like a gut punch. When all was said and done, I rolled with it, because D&D is about improvisation, right? D&D does have elements of improvisation, but if your whole story arc is just ruined because the DM just felt like it, then yeah, I can see how it'd sour your experience. You put in so much time and ideas and planning, and probably talk to the DM about the idea behind the character and about what sort of a story you'd like to tell, and suddenly out of nowhere, both your character that doesn't feel like they belong with the party and belong with the plot, and your character that's trying to be more sneaky, stabby kind of way, has to have their entire identity spoiled in a giant arena? Why? What's the point? I hope after the session you got to talk with the DM about this whole thing and kind of tell them that you're not happy with the way both character story arcs are going. One clearly is unfit with a mostly evil party, and the other one has the identity reveal for no reason entirely. What was the point to reveal the identity unless the DM has some sort of a twist on why the identity should be revealed? It's kind of pointless. It just kills any sort of excitement and hype about what to do next and the intrigue about your character because, well, character story arc is done. Now you know he's a drow rogue. Great. Fantastic. Well done, DM. Well done. Initiative is rolled, battle commences, and already the two bosses are throwing legendary actions and reactions left and right, with some pretty steep attack rolls, damage rolls, and saving throws for a level 9 party. Even my barbarian with 125 HP and resistance to slashing damage only lasted 3 turns. I was already having my suspicions, but I roll with it because D&D is mostly luck. Right? 3 rounds in, and the whole party is down except for my rogue and Sorcerer. Sorcerer in last-ditch effort to turn the tide draws 3 cards from the deck of many things. The draw resulted in 3 level ups and 3 wish spells. A pretty unfair advantage for the DM's now level 12 chosen one to have over the rest of us, but that's just the nature of the deck. And that wasn't the main issue. Sorcerer without hesitation cashes in his first wish. I wish for my closest allies and comrades to be revitalized as though they had taken a long rest. In an ideal world, this was the perfect wish. The party had landed some blows on the boss, but got backed into a corner, and this would give them the second wind they needed to turn the tide and triumph over the terrible evil. Because those epic moments of struggle, team effort, and victory are exactly what D&D is all about. Right? I'm really vibing with the expectation pose because all these right is like almost like you're trying to hope for the better thing. You're thinking like it's gonna get better, right? No, this is okay, this is fine, this is actually gonna get better, right? The DM is totally gonna explain this lore thing, right? This is not gonna just end in such a disaster, right? That's exactly how my RPG horror story went. It's just like I'm thinking to myself like, is this trip was all for nothing? Are we just fighting a bunch of demons for the sake of fighting demons for no reason? Like it's totally gonna have a payoff, right? We're totally gonna get rewarded with like story stuff, right? We're totally gonna feel like we're relevant to the world, right? We're totally not gonna be sidelined by the main cast, right? For real though. I relate to this. I'm sorry for what's coming up ahead. The DM twisted this wish in a way that confirmed my suspicion from the start of this absurdly unbalanced encounter. A strange magic takes a hold of us and we black out. We're not sure how much time passes. But we wake up revitalized as though we had taken a long rest with no gear and separated into prison cells. At that moment, it became clear that not only were we not expected to win that encounter, we were set up to lose from the start. I don't mind losing in D&D if that's what the dice decide, but being railroaded into defeat just feels like our efforts as players don't really matter in the long run. I'm mentally checked out for the rest of the session, only speaking when addressed, which wasn't often. But here's the part that had me conflicted. Everyone else seemed to be okay with that questionable encounter, so am I just overreacting? Am I the a-hole here? I have some personal thoughts about this whole thing, but first we're gonna get to the PS, because there's a very long, important PS at the end. PS, the campaign has been going on for a year, so the afterthought threatened my character. Well, characters now, in favor of Sorcerer and Ranger being the stars of the campaign, have been going on for quite some time. I'm absolutely not asking to be the main character, but something I hear often about D&D is that everybody gets a turn in the spotlight. I've been waiting patiently for mine for a year, but the most my barbarian had gotten were very brief and entirely unmemorizable moments. Well, whatever isn't hand-waved off screen anyway. I even had it as a bit of a silly trait that my barbarian had no idea that he grows in size when he rages. His Path of the Giant. Nice. I call it the POG for short. Oh, genius. When the other party members questioned about him, he said they were making it up. When asked if he noticed anything around him getting smaller, he hilariously explained it as adrenaline messing with his depth perception. Ivan told the DM I wanted him to remain unaware of that until he met someone who knew about the Pog and taught him about his power. After a year of the DM never playing into it and focusing entirely on Sorcerer and Ranger, I ended up quietly retconning it and basically just accepted that as far as the DM and the party were concerned, Barbarian was only there to be mindless muscle. Oh. Before I say anything, I am so sorry. I wish I had the emo to express how sad. This is the best I can do right now. This sounds like panic and screaming and DMPCs, sexual content, you know, oh no. That sounds like it looks like a panic face. Like, you deserve better. You were with this group for a year with no payoff, nothing significant, some sort of like a your moment kind of thing. It's just unfair, dude. For real, this is genuinely unfair. From the looks of it and the way you've wrote it, it really looks like Sorcerer and Ranger get the biggest hog of the spotlight, and their actions change the entire world and have the biggest, prevalent, most impactful, like, ripple effect in the entire world. And if that is the case, I think you should genuinely talk to the DM about this and genuinely just find out with them if they're prioritizing the Sorcerer and Ranger more than anybody else, and why you haven't had your payoff for your character's backstory with meeting somebody else of Path of the Giant. But you also should express the frustration you felt when your rogue just suddenly had the identity revealed. For what? Why? They didn't need to have the identity revealed. They could have just been there, part of the fight, and just been part of the whole thing. Your rogue and your barbarian are different characters living different lives and stuff. Maybe they're interacting with the party and stuff. Maybe they know each other, like, character-wise, narratively-wise, but still, having to take that away from you, not only give you your barbarian's, like, story and lore of finding somebody else of Path of Barbarian, but also take away your rogue's whole plan that they had with trying to keep the identity hidden. That sucks, dude. That sucks. I think you need to have a heart-to-heart with your DM and tell them all the grievances and all the things you dislike. You could try to work with the DM to fix the current issues that are going on there. It's ultimately up to you. I'm not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, but I definitely encourage you to talk to your DM and have that heart-to-heart. I feel like after the heart-to-heart, it should be a lot clearer to see what happens. I wish you best of luck and hope things work out for you. For real. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.